Eric, go ahead.
Thanks, Laura. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us this afternoon as we provide you some information regarding our coordinated preparedness efforts for this week's cold front weather. I'm City Manager Eric Walsh. I'm joined by several key leaders from our preparedness team, including Deputy City Manager Maria Villagomez. I see Chief McManus here, Mike Moreland with Bexar County EOC, Rudy Garza with CPS Energy, and Robert Puente with SAWS. They'll each share a bit about what their entities are doing to prepare in a moment. So just to kind of recap the forecast as it stands right now, our EOC group has been in contact several times a day with the National Weather Service, but very strong Arctic cold front will move through the area Wednesday afternoon and evening, bringing the coldest temperatures we've seen so far this winter. We are expecting hard freezes in the forecast and cold wind, bitterly cold wind, chills. We're also forecast to see winds Thursday into Thursday night at a sustained 15 to 20 miles per hour, gusting up to 25 to 30. So thankfully, winter precipitation is not forecasted for the San Antonio area, but we are taking measures to be prepared. We all know how unpredictable the weather can be. That line of winter precipitation chances is north of San Antonio. We are asking our residents to be prepared by remembering the 4 Ps, people, pets, plants, and pipes. Keep warm and dress in layers. Check on elderly family members or neighbors. Make sure you bring your pets inside to keep them safe and healthy. Bring your potted plants inside. Cover outdoor plants with cloth fabric. And in terms of pipes, cover outdoor pipes and allow faucets to slowly drip to prevent them from freezing. You can learn more about how to get prepared by visiting sanantonio.gov and downloading our winter weather preparedness guide. It's available in both Spanish and English, and you can also call 311. Let me give you a little bit of an update in terms of our infrastructure crews, our public works crews, who will be on call and will begin spreading chat rock and de-icing material on city bridges, overpasses, and major arterial roads beginning Wednesday afternoon. Since high winds are expected, our public works stormwater rapid response teams will be on standby for any downed trees that may block the right-of-way. And our barricade crews will be dispatched to provide additional closures if needed. Our traffic division will be monitoring the roadways and coordinating with police, fire, TxDOT on any emergency responses necessary. Residents and commuters are urged to contact 311 to report malfunctioning traffic signals or down trees that are blocking streets or sidewalks. In terms of homeless, we are extending our 311 customer service hours on Wednesday evening through midnight. 311 will be open from 6 a.m. on Thursday through midnight, and then 6 a.m. Until midnight on Friday. Our Human Services Department has been working with nonprofit partners to prepare overnight shelter and meals for the unsheltered population. And our Human Services Department will also be helping with the transportation of those individuals to the shelters. The city's Homeless Connections hotline will be open from 6 p.m. on Thursday and Friday to help connect individuals to resources. That Homeless Connections hotline is 210-207-1799. That's 210-207-1799. Many of you have asked about warming centers for the general public, so we're going to continue to monitor this situation very closely. Should we see a need to open warming centers, we'll share an update with you and all of our media partners and the public. Pets, and so we'll provide an update on warming centers likely by midday tomorrow as we continue to monitor the situation. As I mentioned earlier, pets should be brought indoor from the cold. Residents that notice pets that are being left out without proper care or pet in need, we're asking that they call 311. Our animal care officers will be on patrol, available to respond and handle those situations. So let me turn it over to Chief McManus to address road and street and highway preparedness. Chief?
Thank you, Eric. Good afternoon, everyone. So SAPD's primary role
in these weather events is watching the highways, the temperatures, and the likelihood of precipitation. We have officers in the Emergency Operations Center watching this and working closely with TxDOT. In the event that the temperature starts to drop and there's precipitation, we will make a decision in conjunction with TxDOT to close the highways, the elevated highways, and the flyovers. Our goal in doing that is to shut those highways down and those overpasses down before the roads freeze. As I said last time we talked about this, we don't want our measure to be when the crashes start, then we shut them down. We've got to time it right so that prior to those roads freezing over, just prior to those roads freezing over, we want to shut it down to prevent those accidents from happening. So we'll be monitoring. I'm looking at the weather forecast right now, and it appears that possibly overnight on Wednesday, it's going to rain. City manager just mentioned that it's going to be north of here, but we are looking at it. And again, in the event that the weather indicates, we will have those roads and overpasses shut down in conjunction with TxDOT. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Laura, next.
Next up, we have Mike Moreland from Bexar County.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Bexar County officials continue to monitor the conditions from the county side. Our necessary staff, including our public works, is prepared for 24-hour scheduled rotation as needed. We continue to monitor these conditions along with our COSA partners at the Emergency Operations Center, and we'll staff as necessary with our staff. We have, together with the emergency services districts 2, 3, 8, the city of China Grove, and the city of Leon Valley, will open our 6 warming centers starting 7 p.m. tomorrow evening, and that'll run through Saturday noon or until conditions merit otherwise. These locations will abide by COVID-19 safety protocols and will include physical distancing and strongly suggested but not required face masks. We'll continue to monitor the situation and update our partners as needed. Thank you.
Next up, we have Rudy Gadesa from CPS Energy.
Good afternoon, and Eric, thank you for inviting us on again today. For the community, I would just reinforce the fact that all the preparations that we talked about last time obviously are applicable to this event as well. We've stood up our incident response team internally to ensure that all the resource requirements that our crews are going to need to respond to potential outages are ready to go. Our power plants are all available. Our transmission system is fully functional, and our distribution system, what I'd say is with high winds and all the trees in San Antonio, obviously high winds are the biggest cause of outages in our system on an annual basis. So the wind is something to pay attention to. We're going to do the best we can to keep up in the event that those wind conditions cause outages. But as far as the ERCOT system's readiness for this winter event, I think ERCOT's had some press events, and I know the governor spoke today as well. But I do believe the ERCOT system is ready to go. We might very well see an ERCOT system-wide peak on Friday morning, depending upon how low into the 20s it gets. But the difference, I guess, this time as opposed to February is that again, the power plants across the system are running. So I just kind of want to reassure the community again that we do have insight into that. I do believe that our peers across the state have done their part. While there could be the possibility for precipitation early on in this event, our hope is that the road conditions, because of the good work that the city and the county and TxDOT I know are doing, will be passable and allow our crews to get around. I would reiterate Eric's suggestions. I hope everybody takes an opportunity to dust off their personal plans for emergencies of this nature, and that you make arrangements to get where you know you will be safe, with family or friends, and certainly that you're paying attention to your own readiness as well. If any questions that you have about CPS Energy during the event, you can go to our outage map during events like this. If you go to the outage map, and the outage map shows that you're out. If you do find yourself out of power, that tells you we know you're out, and that we're responding appropriately. The heating centers will be also uploaded onto our map, so you can find that information there, and we will be coordinating with our partners across the community as conditions change, and as our situation changes. We will be updating our community appropriately, and our customers as well. I would expect for those of you on our communication list, we will update you through our customer communication channels as well regularly throughout this event. You've got our focus and commitment that we will keep you updated as conditions change, but we're ready to go. Our crews are available, and we'll be ready to respond to outages. And we look forward to getting through this event and our community having the energy they need to be safe and warm through this event. That's all I have, Eric.
Next up, we have Robert Puente with SAWS.
Good afternoon, everyone. At the San Antonio water system, these next few days of cold weather will not pose any issue for us for a few reasons. One, a lot of our infrastructure is underground. It's insulated by the earth itself. That infrastructure that's above the ground has already been winterized, insulated, tested, so everything should function as it should. All other things that may happen that we have control over, such as making sure all of our crews are in place, that vehicles have chains if they're going to be needed, if we're going to have ice, that all of our employees are properly winterized as far as gloves and winter gear. All of that has been taken care of. What the main point I want to emphasize is for our customers. If you experienced frozen pipes and therefore burst pipes during Winter Storm Uri, you're probably going to see it again unless you took the time to insulate your pipes. And if you haven't done so, you might have still an opportunity, another 24 or 48 hours to do so. And if you can't get down to the hardware store, throw some blankets on there, some towels, some sheets around whatever pipe is exposed on the outside. That will insulate it. That will make sure that there's no frozen water in there that eventually will cause the pipe to break. So I want to make sure that everyone knows there that we are prepared. Some of the things that we have to make sure that we know of, as the governor said, the state of Texas still is not resilient as far as ERCOT is concerned. If ERCOT has to shed load, and Rudy and his team over at CPS has to shed load, SAWS is their biggest customer, so they're going to look at us. But for our public, they need to know that we've already spoken with CPS Energy. They know what particular pump stations are critical, the ones that can be used to do offloading. They know about, so that communication has already happened. That handbook is already there between us. So our customers, our water customers, should be very well in a comfort zone that just wait for Sunday, wait for Saturday, we're going to have some nice weather. Thank you.
Ahora un mensaje en español con María Villagómez.
Gracias, Laura. Buenas tardes, soy María Villagómez, subadministradora de la ciudad de San Antonio. Muchas gracias por acompañarnos esta tarde para este informativo. Como ya lo ha reportado el Servicio Nacional de Meteorología, se espera que en los siguientes días haya un fuerte frente frío proveniente del Ártico que pasará entre el miércoles y el jueves aquí en San Antonio. Las temperaturas térmicas rondarán en los 10 grados y algunas zonas del estado podrían experimentar una sensación de solo un dígito. Aquí en San Antonio eso no es el caso y también ha aclarado el Servicio Nacional de Meteorología que las condiciones que vamos a experimentar, estas condiciones invernales, no serán una repetición de la severidad ni impactos que sufrimos el año pasado en febrero de 2021. Así que queremos compartir con ustedes algunas de las preparaciones que ha estado haciendo la ciudad de San Antonio para este evento. Y más que nada les pedimos a los residentes que estén preparados, recordando las 4 prioridades durante estas temperaturas bajas, que son las personas, mascotas, plantas y tuberías. Respecto a las personas, manténganse abrigados y vístanse en capas de ropa y cuide a su familia o vecinos, esas personas de la tercera edad o edad avanzada que quizás necesiten ayuda. A sus mascotas, traiga sus mascotas adentro de la casa o un lugar un poco tibio para que estén seguras. Sus plantas también cúbralas para protegerlas del frío y muy importantes son las tuberías, que cubra las tuberías exteriores y deje que las llaves goteen lentamente para evitar que se congelen. Ahora, algunas de las cosas que ha estado haciendo la ciudad de San Antonio, por ejemplo, nuestro Departamento de Obras Públicas y el Departamento de Policía están atentos y comenzarán primeramente que los caminos tengan material que descongele, especialmente los puentes y pasos elevados. El Departamento de Policía estará coordinando con el Departamento del Estado Texas en caso de que se tengan que cerrar algunas de las carreteras. Nosotros vamos a mantenerlos informados de si alguna de las calles o de estos carreteras se cierran, así que pueden visitar nuestra página de internet. Para proveer más servicio al público, nuestro servicio del 311 se va a mantener abierto desde las 6 de la mañana el jueves hasta la medianoche. Generalmente nuestras horas son hasta las 7 de la tarde, así que las vamos a extender hasta la medianoche. Otra área en que la ciudad ha estado trabajando es para aquellas personas indigentes o que no tienen hogar. El Departamento de Servicios Humanos, con algunos de nuestros compañeros de trabajo, se les está ofreciendo alojamiento y comida a esas personas indigentes o sin hogar en algunos de los albergues locales aquí en San Antonio. Así que seguimos haciendo esas conexiones y si algunas personas necesitan asistencia, pueden llamar al 207-1799. El Departamento de Cuidado a los Animales también ha estado anunciando a la comunidad que tenga sus mascotas en unos lugares seguros para que no tengan que pasar algún frío o puedan pasarles algo malo cuando estén fuera de sus casas. Algunos de ustedes han preguntado acerca de los refugios para las personas en caso de que la temperatura sea tal que nosotros vamos a abrir esos centros de calentamiento. Se están haciendo las preparaciones para poder abrirlos y eso se necesita. Mañana, como al mediodía, como a la 1 de la tarde, vamos a dar otro informativo a la comunidad y darles y informarles si estos centros de calentamiento se van a abrir aquí dentro de la ciudad de San Antonio. Muchas gracias.
At this time, we'll go ahead and take questions from our media partners. You can unmute your line, or go ahead, Rudy. I'm sorry.
Laura, I'm sorry. I want to come back to just to reinforce something that Robert said. You know, for SAWS pump stations, the critical pump stations, we know where they are, and we are protecting those. So for anybody concerned that Robert and our people are not coordinating, I can promise you that that is critical load on our system for the pump stations that we have discussed, and we will do our part to make sure Robert has what he needs to keep the water flowing. Just wanted to come back to that point.
Thank you, Rudy. At this time, we'll now take questions from our media partners. You can go ahead and unmute your line to ask a question, and I'll also read some from the chat.
Hi, this is Jaime Pelufo with Univision. Wanted to add Rudy Garza if he expects demand to exceed supply or any demand-related outages.
No, sir. I do not expect demand to exceed supply. Like I said, we certainly have plenty of supply for CPS Energy's customers, and I believe that we've got ample supply around the state to cover even an all-time peak demand of 71 gigawatts or whatever the amount is. We've got all of our generation available across ERCOT, and then a little extra to cover that. So I do not expect there to be an ERCOT, load shed event. I mean, obviously, you lose the wrong plant or the wrong transmission line in the wrong spot. There are scenarios that could cause that, but we're not expecting that due to a supply and demand issue.
All right, I'll go ahead and read a question here from the chat. This one comes from Tanya Lopez for Chief McManus. What part is SAPD taking in keeping the community safe during the upcoming weather, and how can the community help you help them? Steve, you're on mute. Stand by, folks. There we go, Chief. Now we've got you.
My response in the chat to that question was SAPD patrol and investigative activities will continue unchanged during a cold weather event.
Thank you, Chief. I'm going to go ahead and read a question here from Sue Kalberg. Will all of you be pushing updates out on your Twitter accounts? I'll let each of the principals. Looks like I see some nods here. Eric, do you want to address that? Okay, follow us on Twitter. The official city handle is COSA.gov, CPS Energy, San Antonio Water System, and Bexar County. Be sure to follow those. We have the blue check mark so you know it's official information coming from the city.
And Laura,
next question.
Laura will also be posting updates to our website, as I'm sure everybody else will as well. So website's a good spot to go to.
Excellent. And for those who do not have internet access, remember you can also call 311. The next question here is from Lindsay Carnett with the San Antonio Report. Did ERCOT send y'all an official notification or message? And if so, what did it say?
We get our updates from ERCOT, on daily calls with ERCOT's, public affairs folks. And so we have been participating in those daily again, unless conditions warrant, some type of system action where they would actually send us a formal message to do something. Normally they will not formally, send out a written communication other than to say that, conditions are normal. So we have not gotten anything in writing, but we have certainly been on their calls to make sure we're paying attention to what's going on at the state level. So we're daily connected to what's going on at ERCOT.
Great, thank you. Any other questions from our media partners?
Santiago Rodríguez, de Telemundo, buenas tardes. En español, si el señor Garza nos pudiera compartir, Rudy Garza de CPS, algún comentario en español acerca de cómo pues estarán afrontando esto. O si nos puede traducir Villagómez, pues sería genial, ¿no?
Yeah, I'm going to have to phone a friend on this one. Maria, can you help?
Claro que sí, Rudy. Lo que dijo el señor Garza es que nuestra compañía de electricidad CPS está preparada para este evento de invierno. Ellos no creen que vaya a ser nada parecido a lo que pasó el año pasado. Tampoco no tiene ninguna notificación a este momento de ERCOT del estado que van a tener que tener algunos apagones eléctricos, como los que tuvimos el año pasado. Así que ellos quizás, como pasa durante el año, si hay mucho viento o si hay hielo que está en las líneas eléctricas, quizás haya desconexiones eléctricas, pero no son porque haya un problema con nuestras plantas eléctricas, son más bien por que hay mucho viento o que hay hielo en las líneas de electricidad. Pero ellos no, hasta ahorita no creen que vaya a ser un problema para ellos y tienen a todos sus trabajadores listos para responder a la comunidad en caso de que se necesite su asistencia.
Our next question comes to us from Zach Hedrick. Zach, go ahead.
Thanks, Laura. Laura. Rudy, a couple questions for you real quick. I know yesterday your team sent out a press release that more than 100 structures were added to some critical parts of, the power plants and stuff like that. I know it kind of details a little bit of it in there, but I was hoping, could you explain to our viewers what some of those structures are and how they're going to help keep the lights and the heat on?
Well, I believe that we're going to be doing an event out at our power plant location tomorrow to kind of recap what's changed, from last year to this year. So we can provide more detail at that time. But I will tell you that the PUC came out and ERCOT came out with some standards in phase 1 of their kind of regulatory review that we were all required to comply with. And, that amounted to a little over $2 million worth of work. And there will be additional phases in the future that really drove a portion of our rate request that we recently discussed and got passed through City Council. So, it includes building. We have to build structures around exposed, equipment, pipe, even, kind of control technology that insulates it, from really that cold wind that when paired with precipitation can cause ice around elements of our infrastructure that can freeze up and cause it to not work properly and ultimately take the whole plant down. And so when we build structures, it's to insulate areas that are exposed to those windy areas. We put tracing line on top of pipes to literally warm the pipe up with electricity as throughout the plant in areas where we need to make sure that we keep fluids flowing through our plant. And, we'll build insulation around, the critical equipment that we know could cause a problem. So it's items like that we've just done more of. In some years we might do, 500,000 worth. Some years we might do $1 million in a normal year. We've done 20 million since 2011. But this year we've done 2 million alone. And I think we're going to be doing a lot more in the future. So we literally have to build up temporary structures, put temporary insulation and heating elements on, and then take all that off once we get into the spring, because in the summer we need to cool all that equipment down during the heat of the summer. So now we're literally dealing with both extremes to make sure that we don't miss something. And so we're working really hard. We had a really good inspection with ERCOT. We got a good an inspection report that says we did what we were supposed to do, along with all the other utility generators across the state. But those are the types of things that we're talking about. And again, we can give you much more detailed information in our briefing tomorrow as well.
Yeah, Rudy, just a quick follow-up. That opportunity that you mentioned tomorrow, is that where maybe myself or other media members can come out and somebody from the generation unit can kind of explain what these are going to do?
Yeah, that'll be out on our Bronx site. So yes, we'll have our generation team out there with us, along with the head of our wires team that can also talk to you about load shed changes that we've made to our system and all those good things.
Thanks, Rudy.
Yes, sir.
Next up, we have Matt Houston.
Hi, Rudy, also for you. Do you think that, is it fair to say that downed power lines are the primary threat as far as localized outages are concerned? And can you go through sort of what preparations CPS, or it may be a public works question as well, what preparations you guys, have made in anticipation of trees falling, limbs coming down, and then what resources are available, should that happen?
Well, I'll tell you that the utility, my former company up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, Encore, called asking for crews in anticipation of an icing event up there, and we've held on to our crews along with our tree trimming crews, which I think they asked for 300 tree trimming crews across the state because they're anticipating having to deal with an ice event up in North Texas. Certainly the wind is, as I stated, because of all the trees in San Antonio, we do our best to keep up, but I could probably spend 2 or 3 times what we spend on an annual basis trimming trees in San Antonio if I could get around, to do all the work with the crews I have, to do it with. So we trim proactively, to the tune of, just depending on the year, $10, $15 million a year I spend on tree trimming in a good year. But certainly there will be outages caused by trees that get blown into our lines. You know, we also have objects. So last windstorm, we actually, if you go out to our Twitter feed, you can go back and look at this piece of tin that blew across all three phases of an overhead line in our system and caused an outage to, you know, a few thousand customers. You know, when the wind gets blowing, even objects, you know, could get blown in our lines and cause outages. So it just kind of depends on, you know, how high the winds get, you know, and what direction they're coming from, on how it can impact our system. But we'll have tree crews ready to respond to clear the lines ahead of our crews coming in and getting service back on. So we are pretty good at responding to this type of windstorm. We had a windstorm, I don't know, maybe 3-4 weeks ago, where we had close to 20,000 customers out. So you know, so it happens, but we are prepared to respond, and we've got all the tree crews ready to go that we need to, you know, to clear the trees as they come in contact with our lines and get customers back on.
Great, thank you. Any other questions from the media? I've got one here in the chat from Steven Santana with MySA. Last year, city officials asked unoccupied buildings downtown and city facilities to shut off their lights to help conserve power. Are there any plans to ask for the same type of efforts this week? Maybe Eric or Rudy.
Yeah, I'll answer that. We since last February storm, we put in place a policy to advise city facilities to lower demand and electrical use, and that'll be in place as we monitor the situation going forward.
Yeah, and I'll just add, we will actually go into conservation mode at our downtown headquarter building probably tomorrow night, I believe. We'll turn off parking lot lights and put the building on conservation mode. And we've actually built up what we call a conservation action network. We're not at the stage yet where we can ping meters down to actually take down individual customers. Especially downtown's different because, you know, it's a highly redundant system where you can't just take it down and get it all back up in an efficient manner. So we actually built really a communication system that allows us to hit all those building management companies and ask them to go ahead and take their systems down so that, you know, optically it doesn't look like downtown's lit up when everybody else might be asked to conserve. So we're asking anybody to conserve who can conserve, just out of an abundance of caution, that if they don't need to be utilizing power. But again, we still got some work to do to get down to the meter level of managing outages. Again, I'm not expecting there to be, you know, controlled outages like there were in February, but still, anybody who can conserve, I would tell you, conservation is always a good idea during these type of events.
Hey, one more question. Sorry to cut you off there, Laura. One more question for Chief West, I see is on the call. Chief, I know in cold weather events primarily, there's always a concern about carbon monoxide poisoning, generator safety, space heaters. If you could sort of hit some of the highlights as far as keeping your home safe and fire prevention during cold weather, what's most important for, you know, homeowners to do right now?
Absolutely. I've seen plenty of fires in the wintertime, and we always see an uptick in the cold weather like this. So we always remind people space heaters, keep them free of combustibles. A lot of people will tend to use open flames inside the house, be it the stove, candles, that sort of thing. Always remind people to keep combustibles away from open flames like that. And then again, like you mentioned, the any type of charcoal grill or cooking device brought into the house that should be in the outside, that we always advise against that. You never want to do that. You know, keep the outside stuff outside. Finally, then wind in and around the house. We have wind, and later on in this event, you're going to have drier air. The precipitation is going to move out from what we're hearing late Thursday into Friday. We're going to have drier air with wind. So dry air and wind equals a good recipe for fire to take off and get away from you. So any open flames outside, be extremely careful and avoid it at all possible.
Thank you, Chief. Any other questions from the media?
Yeah, Laura, one more just real quick. Rudy, I believe in your opening remarks, you mentioned ERCOT said that there might be a system-wide peak early Friday morning. It kind of depends on when we get, how low we get into the 20s. So once we move into Friday afternoon, is that when kind of our alert level can start kind of coming down a little bit?
Yeah, I would probably, again, anybody can download ERCOT's app onto your iPhone if you've got access, and pay attention to kind of what the demand supply curves look like and how they're matching up. And I would encourage you to do that. I'd say probably from, midday Thursday to midday Friday is probably the time we'll be paying the most attention. But really it's Friday morning when it could get down to that lower 20-degree temperature that might kick that load up. It would have been higher back in February, had we not been shedding load to artificially hold that peak down to match the supply. The last February's event would have blown this projection out of the water had we had all the generation available. But again, it was kind of artificially held down below what we're expecting. So yeah, I just think it's a function of a growing state. And a good portion of the state, being down into the 20s, that's going to drive that system peak. So, we'll kind of see what happens again if folks across the state are trying to conserve, especially our business customers where they can, then maybe that peak doesn't show up on Friday morning. But, if everybody's working and folks are going on about their day normally, then you would expect that peak to hit Friday morning likely.
Great. Thank you, Rudy. At this time, let me turn it back over to City Manager Eric Walsh.
No, thanks, Laura. So what we'll do is we'll provide an update again tomorrow and keep everybody updated as conditions change. We appreciate everybody's patience and our late start this afternoon, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.